This
All right, hello and welcome to my stages of awakening. This is a sequel to another presentation I did a few weeks ago, which is the foundations of awakening. Not necessarily that one goes first and one goes second. They both sort of complement each other. So I will be doing the foundations to awakening again in a few weeks. So if you if you find this one interesting and you want to sort of see the next one, then I can do that. But yes, I assume everyone can see my screen. Thumbs up if you can see my screen. Good job. And as I said, feel free to put your hand up and ask any questions as we go along. This is a really interesting area, which I was very interested in and worked in quite significantly about 10 years ago, 9 or 10 years ago. Um, and it was from material by a guy called Claire Graves and Don Beck over in the US, who actually worked for the US government at one stage. And they did a lot of work on the values, growth of values through different levels. And then I came across a book called Stairway to Heaven by Tara Springett. And she's gone ahead and she's sort of extracted some of the work that Chris Cohen and Don Beck did and put it together with some Buddhist philosophy and some work that other people have done and added a couple more levels. And I really, it's a very simple way to describe these stages. And I found it very, very useful in my coaching work to try to help people move up through different world views to help them in their spiritual practice. So that's what I want to share with you today. And I hope that you enjoy it as much as I do and that it just spurs some curiosity and maybe you can explore it further, either by yourself or with me. So I will just, obviously, I have to acknowledge, I mean, there's several people that I should acknowledge, but the main one here, the book that I'm following, Tara Springen, and if you're interested in finding out more, you can find public talks by her. She's a German-born Buddhist therapist uh, based in England, but she's also a Tibetan Buddhist. So she sort of works as a psychotherapist in the daytime and a Tibetan Buddhist teacher, in the evenings or whatever. And there's a couple of questions that I want to take forward into this presentation. And the first one sort of comes almost from Tara herself, but one which I've sort of pondered as well, is she puts it quite elegantly that as a Buddhist teacher, she would go and teach people to drop your ego, get rid of ego. Ego is your enemy. Ego is what causes you suffering. Get rid of it. And then she would go to work the next day as a psychologist and she would work with people that really needed to strengthen their sense of identity and, in a way, strengthen their ego. So, for example, she would work with people in a domestic, sort of a domestic violence or a sort of a slightly abusive um, situation. And her idea was what these people needed. They needed to stand up for themselves and know that they had rights and that they could stand up for themselves. So she needed to build up their ego. And it dawned on her, she said, there's this paradox. In the daytime, I'm teaching people to be a better person and be powerful, and you can do it and build up your ego. And then at night time, I'm going to the Buddhist center and teaching people get rid of your ego. It's your enemy. It's the obstacle to enlightenment. So that fascinated her and actually was instrumental, I think, in her study of these levels, which we're going to talk about. Now, a question which I've had for a long time is I'm a very passionate meditator and I teach people to meditate, and people get very, very enthusiastic. And I myself have gotten so much out of the meditation journey, the ability to sort of get my mind into states of really deep peace and happiness. And I convince people, and so people come along on the journey, and then they give up after like a couple of months of meditating. And it's always been like, why would people do that? You know, I've just given them the elixir of happiness, and yet people say, oh, I'm a bit too busy to meditate. Yeah, oh, blah, blah, blah. There was always 100 excuses. So that was a question. And I'm going to try to talk about this journey and see if we can answer a couple of those questions tonight. And so maybe that's enlightening for you. So just a quick overview. This journey ahead is this sort of oscillation between me and the group, and we go through this period of going from a state of innocence through to developing an ego, and then dissolving that ego into really a state of love at the end. And so we'll go through stages. And again, these are simplified steps, but I just think there's a lot of value in them. So what we can do is imagine that throughout life, we go through a set of stages. Everyone goes through them, but a lot of people will get stuck at a certain stage. And so I'm going to talk through these stages and see if they resonate with you. Now, one thing which I did do is half an hour ago at 7 o'clock, I sent all of you an email. And on that email is a PDF of how you can work out which helps you work out which stage you're at. It's very, very simplified, but it just gives you a taste. So I'm going to come back to that at the end of the presentation, and we're going to sort of talk about where you guys think you are stage-wise. And if that's enlightening to you, then that's great. So if you've on the computer and you haven't found that yet, go ahead. I will actually say that it also gives you a link to a login to another 5-week course that I've done, which I'll talk about later as well. So, step 0, innocence. Okay, so when we're all born, we are all born very, very innocent, and we are open to the world. And whilst we're very, very young, we basically do not have an ego. A baby doesn't sort of feel like their ego is hurt. All it's interested in is just the rudimentaries of life, enough food, enough warmth, enough comfort. And so in this state, a baby is like pre-egoic. And in this state, they're very harmonious. It may not sound like it when they're crying for food, but there's no mental agitation going on in the baby's mind. It's actually a very, very peaceful existence. Obviously, once they're satiated, they're very, very calm. They're not clinging and trying to get things. They don't have desires. They don't have wants. And so this is a state of innocence where there is no real concept of self. There's only a concept of what I need right now. And so this is the first stage. Now, interestingly enough, there are people in this world who actually get stuck at this innocent stage. If you stay in this innocent stage, you will grow up often being quite easygoing, very innocent, often quite optimistic and happy. People in this state are very, very happy. They're also a little bit gullible. They can be easily persuaded by other people because at this stage, people just take things verbatim. So if you meet a person who's at the stage of innocence and you tell them something, they're usually like, oh, really? Oh, is that true? They sort of believe you straight away. They're often very, very associated. Their family is their whole world. What's just around them is their whole world. They're very either family or tribal. You might get, an innocent person whose mum or dad are their best friend, and they remain like that their whole life. They're almost very dependent on their mum or their dad their whole life. So it's possible to get stuck at the state of innocence, and we can recognize people in that state. But a lot of people, most people, will move out of innocence into a state of dominance. Now, we recognize this probably as the terrible twos, where suddenly a child will realize if I make a big scene, I'm more likely to get what I want. And so they realize that they have desires once they've, tasted a yummy food or they've got a favorite toy, and they learn to use aggression and violence to just take what they want. So it's raw desire and willpower, and they have discovered their identity. Now, the idea is they need immediate gratification straight away. So anything they desire, they just make a big scene up until they get it. You may recognize this in young children, but some people will stay here their whole life. And if you grow up in this kind of values level, it's very much a, I need to fight for what I get. And as you grow up, you get other people, brothers and sisters, fighting for what they want, and it's the toughest to survive. And people can grow up into this very much a dog eat dog world. You've got to fight to survive. You've got to be the tough person in the house. It's power that matters, and you've just got to step on everybody else. And we probably know, if not people in the world ourselves, you can point, to leaders like Vladimir Putin. He does not care not only about his enemies, he doesn't care about his own people. It is just the toughest and strongest survive. And you will see that if a majority of people in a particular society take on this attitude, then the whole society tends to resonate around this particular level. And yeah, Russia is a good example. If anyone's ever been to Russia, it's not just the politicians, but the people themselves take pride in being tough. And there's very much this attitude that, well, you've got to fight for every scrap that you can get. So it's yeah. So this one can be a very, very violent sort of attitude to go through. Now, if we come back to looking at the growth of children, um, eventually we teach children to conform to a set of rules. Now, some kids, I guess, get pulled kicking and screaming into having to obey rules, and they still stay at the level of domination, and they just realize that their parents are enforcing the rules. So they think that that's very unfair, but it's just a power game. But if one is wise, then one realizes that rules are there for a purpose, and that purpose is a sense of peace. Because if in a family we fight with each other and it's the kids against the parents and the brothers against the sisters, it's a very violent and not a very, very happy household. If we agree to rules, okay, Mondays, you know, child one does the dishes, Tuesday, child two does the dishes. Once we've got those rules, there's a lot more peace. And so if one is wise enough, one can understand there that having rules and being obedient to those rules is definitely a step up from just being fighting with one another. Now, some kids will really fall into this rules-based order and they love it and they become every child goes through it. They almost become rule Nazis. And then they actually pick you up as a parent, ha, you're disobeying the rule. And they feel very upset if you disobey your own rules. And they become, yeah, like little rule Nazis. And people can really get stuck at this level. So they can think that it is all. The other thing about this level is in order for there to be rules, there also needs to be a hierarchy of who sets the rules. It can be that they believe in the government as the Supreme Court or the High Court to set the rules or the government to put the rules in place. Very often, however, it's also associated with many spiritual traditions. And of course, we know a lot of religions can be very, very tight on their rules. But it does give a sense of belonging, and at least there's a higher order to things. Now, there are a few drawbacks to this. The first is that too many rules kind of represses people. Like you all, I'm sure, felt very constrained with a kind of a rule-based system that's just gone too far. But not only that, it can also actually create a sort of them and us attitude. So even though we believe in a certain set of rules, like for example, in the religious condition, people come to believe that our religion is right and therefore all the other religions are wrong. And so you can actually get just as much violence endemic in a system when one sort of rule system that believe that they're doing right, represses another system. Um, and so people go through and they feel some sort of peace as they go in from the sort of more violence of a dominant value system into a rules-based obedience system. But then they feel a bit repressed. And then gradually people will evolve out of that and they'll say, no, I want more autonomy. I realize the importance of rules, but within the rules, I want to be able to work on my own entrepreneurial ideas, for example, which brings us into the next level, which is the ambition or the entrepreneurial type of level. And this is where, and if you grow into this level, you realize, yes, rules are important, but rules are made. And we have to understand why were the rules there in the first place. So in a family, we've got to say, well, we have these family rules so that we don't have yelling matches, but they're there. The whole idea is that we get along as a family and we develop as a family. And also in the world, if you have a society, then they question the rules. They say, well, is a rule made in 1854 still valid in 2026? Why can't we go to the High Court and change the rules? So governments are updating the rules because of more of this sort of personal ambition, entrepreneurial ideas. Now, what's this based on is it's usually based on science. So this is where you get people who are very rational, very scientific, very materialistic, and it isn't true unless I see it type of thing. So a lot of them will sort of throw away the religion and go, oh, that's rubbish. We can't see religion. We can't see God. So I'm only ever going to believe in science. Um, and they understand that they then have the power within themselves to manipulate the world in a way which suits them, but understanding that they need to do it in relation to the rules because as a scientific person, we understand that rules are there for a reason. And this really is the entrepreneurial spirit. But like all the levels that were before it, it also has its problems because in this we start to get people who are a little bit greedy and so you can understand that it's right for economists and people on the Wall Street to make a lot of money. They often want to have big egos. They want to have all the luxury items. But that sort of competitive nature can be harmful to the environment, harmful to the world, and actually it's harmful to ourselves because we put ourselves in this ongoing competition. It's like we must succeed, our business must succeed, we must make more money and serve more people, and then have political power. And uh, in the world today, these levels 4 and 5 are probably the most common. There's still a lot of people who like to sort of stick to the rules, but then we clearly see that there's this entrepreneurial spirit in the world of people wanting to use science to progress, but it in itself is causing a lot of problems that we know about. It's sort of selfish problems. So yeah, scientific materialistic lens, they often are working. These people often work on themselves. So they'll be working out what multivitamins to take, what exercise regimes to work. There's a lot of good in this stuff. How to work better. They're really into the self-help books because they think if I can work on myself, I can make my surroundings better. However, with all that success, by the time you reach 40 or 50, sometimes people are like, I've been working my whole life and I'm still struggling. And even though I've had a lot of success, I'm not necessarily that happy. And when you look back on your life, what really makes you happy is relationships, you know, and maybe going out camping in nature and doing things together. And then what happens is people want to have a sea change or a tree change and they give up. And you've probably heard of corporates who said, oh, I was in the corporate field for 20 years and now I just want to go and live in an ashram. And these people are graduating from values level 3 here. Sorry, in other areas, it's different values level number, ambition values level up into what's called a sharing values level, which is all about love and kindness and group and helping one another. So they start to become very much less selfish, but in a sort of a self-serving way because they know that's what makes them happier. Now, I'll just stop there. Am I making sense to everyone? Is everyone with me with all of this?
Mm.
Good stuff.
Yes.
So here we have the heart opening to nature. You'll maybe, like I said, go and join an ashram or a monastery, join Greenpeace, start fighting for the whales, because that's what really makes you alive. And you've tried the materialistic thing, and to be honest with you, it just wasn't working for you. Um, and so there's this shift from me to we, to let's talk about us. And there's this idea that you want to bring everyone up to the same level. Like we want to see everyone has a right to be happy. And there's a lot of good and a lot of hard work to go and try to get equality in the world. And this is wonderful. And people can get stuck in this place for a long time. And this is fine. It's a good place to get stuck. However, it can also be a little bit claustrophobic. So I've spent time in monasteries and I've spent time in these kind of very much sharing situations. And there's a lot of talk, 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 and no one takes any action. It's like, oh, we can't do that because Jane's not happy. What do you want, Jane? Okay. Oh, now Roger's not happy. We don't want to do anything until Roger's happy. Now, is Roger, are you happy? Okay. Now, oh, we forgot this might not be good for the environment. And so it turns into it starts to get rule-based and it starts to get a little bit claustrophobic for people who spend a lot of time in sort of this level of sharing environment. And again, there's this sense of if you want to get something, do something yourself. And it's no good talking about something, you need to take action. And if you wait around for the whole group, you're never going to get any action. Someone needs to take the lead, and there is a natural hierarchy. It's just common. It just is the way of the world that often there's a leader and then there's followers, and it doesn't have to be like that. You can be a leader in one area and someone else can be a leader in another area. But there's this growth in a sense of going forward. So that takes us to this idea of responsibility. Now, the responsibility level is where we decide that if something's going to change, we have to change it ourselves. But they take with them the understanding from the previous levels. As you level up, you understand everything from the previous levels. So you understand that violence isn't the answer. You understand that rules by themselves are not the answer. You understand that entrepreneurship is great, but it has its drawbacks. The other thing you understand that sharing is good as long as we can take action. The other thing that you understand at this level, this is getting fairly high, and there's not that many people in the world that sort of are at this level. But we'll talk about this. Sometimes we can be at this level in certain context and at other level in other context. There's this idea in responsibility that if I'm suffering, it's my problem. It's not anyone else's problem. And if I want to be happy, I've got to work on my mind, not necessarily the things out there. So, like step 3, which was the entrepreneurial side, there's this sense of empowerment. But whereas the entrepreneur wants to fix the world around them, so that they're living on a beautiful house and got a boat and everything to make them happy, the responsibility says, no, I'm going to change it, but I'm going to change it from the inside. I'm going to change my mind from the inside. And if I can look at things in a good way, then I will be happy. And at this level, there's often very much a journey into oneself. People really get into different therapies. They're very observant of their own mind and they're going like, I'm angry. Why am I angry? You know, that this is where you might get into like past life regression and NLP therapy, which is what I'm into for some of you don't know, and all of that, because it's about, well, if I want to be happy, I need to change my own mind. So they realize that the dreams are what's best for humankind and they take responsibility for their own inner life and they get devoted to sort of personal growth. Now, before stage 5 and 4 and 3 are really concentrated on trying to change the outside world. And they're often not interested in any of this spiritual talk. So chances are most of you here probably have some sort of 6 or 7 values going on even to be at this talk, because this is where you get interested in these types of things. So any questions on that? Got a couple more levels to go. All right, so you can see this is quite a big change, but as we take on the responsibility of our own happiness and we question what is it in our mind that makes us happy, we come up with the idea that it really is wanting others to be happy or love, putting out positive emotions to others, which makes us feel happy. So in Tara's kind of universe, she calls this level the level of love. And it's like, my goal is to heal others and send out love. And that really is my one goal in life, is to spread as much love as I can in the world, because altruistic love not only, of course, helps the world heal, it heals me as well. This idea of love is healing both oneself and others. So it uplifts and serves, and we can feel it in ourselves. We know very firsthand that when we're feeling loving, we ourselves feel happy. All right, I've got a question. Pankaj.
Uh, Peter, just want to ask you, yeah, as you move, I would assume that a ordinary human being would um, follow the steps from one to uh, maturity, let's say.
Mm,
So from being like from stage one to the best stage, right?
yeah.
But do you think this has got any relation to the progression of age, or is it as one um, starts what we call the sixth habit of introspection. That is when you start transgressing through the steps.
No, I would say that everyone goes through, from what I can see, everyone goes through all of these levels. But you're right, some people could be already at stage 6 or 7 or whatever in their teenage years or their 20s. Whereas other people, as I said to you, could get stuck at the innocence level their whole life. You know, maybe they need several lifetimes to progress. So we all kind of go up, usually through our teenage years or whatever, but often we will get stuck at a certain level and we'll just hold that view for the rest of our life. Like it's a dog eat dog out there, world out there. You've just got to fight for every morsel that you can get. And I'm going to hold on to that view for the rest of my life. And they do. Otherwise, they get into, a rules system. Look, you've just got to follow the rules. The rules are there for a reason. You follow the rules and you're happy. And if you don't, then you deserve to be punished. And by hell, I'm going to punish you or whatever. So you get stuck at a certain level. And that can happen quite quickly. But no one goes from being born straight into uh, really any of the levels without learning the lesson, I guess, of each of the lower levels.
Um, just to add to that, a quick one, like let's say people who are still materialistic, um, eat, drink, have the good life.
Yeah,
Is this something that runs up to the end of their life? Have they
correct.
got no have they got no idea that there is karma, that you are accountable for what you do,
No, they
um,
have no idea. They just
and
believe that into the rest of their life.
and they don't even see that at the end of their life there is going to be some kind of questioning, or there will be some kind of answers they will have to provide for whatever
Correct.
things
They
they
don't
did
see
were
that.
wrong.
Correct. It's like, I'm going to die and I'm just going to get as much as I can out of this life as I can. And they will just fight for every morsel. They don't worry about questions at the end of life or anything like that. So this is step 6 is love. Now, as we mature with love, um, there's we're also working on our own mind, and there is this sense of very much it's you try to love, but there's just so much pain in the world. It's very, very difficult to sit with. And there's also a lot of difficulties, a lot of stuff coming up from oneself. Oneself feels that one's inadequate to be able to grow further and have that love. And they need to be grounded, and they go into introspection, and then they realize that they need to find that connection in themselves. And in order to do that, we need to let go of any type of selfishness. And as we let go of all selfishness, we move up into the level of bliss. Now, when we are able to let go of the ego, then bliss, which is our natural nature, will shine through. So, what I teach in meditation is in meditation, we all try to find happiness and we try to find joy and find peace. Well, a baby had that when it was a few days old. So you were born with that. It's a sort of a birthright. And the interesting thing about meditating to a deep level is you don't have to do anything. You don't cultivate really anything. What you do is you get the negative patterns out of the way, and then the happiness and bliss just come up automatically. And when we start to experience that, we realize that we can stay in that energy. And the more we stay in that energy, the happier we are and the more we can love others. and that is healing both for ourselves and for others. So it's about creating this connection with, now, some people would say connection with the universe, some people would say connection with God, some people would just say connection with others or connection with love, and that everything is love. And so we get to this point where it's like my true nature is just this bliss. And any type of trying to create an ego tends to suppress that bliss. And so there's this natural understanding that bliss is the way. And so because ego tends to suppress that, then it's clear that ego is the problem, which is sort of what all the traditions talk about. And so we move into what's called awareness, and awareness is free of ego, and this is bliss. So this is a great shift, and however, it can be, um, there are still vestiges of ego, and the feelings that we feel are both rapturous, but they can also be scary. Okay, and you may have heard in different traditions talk about things like the dark night of the soul. It can be a bit of a roller coaster. One minute you are ecstatic, the next minute you're depressed. You can find that the smallest little thing, like an animal in nature, makes you incredibly happy. But then when you know, come across someone who's suffering, that's just been hit by someone, it puts you into this very, very deep, sadness, etc. And we need to really stay with this and start to see the benevolence of the whole world and just the um, cause and effect relationship of the whole world and transcend the ego altogether so that we become unaffected by that. And then we get to the final stage, which is enlightenment, where we're unaffected by this roller coaster and we're basically in this state of rapture with what is 24 hours a day. And this is the ultimate state, according to Tara and according to Buddhism and many, many other traditions, etc. So these models of development are a real good guide. They're like a stairway which we can take, but they also explain to Tara in her book why really there's this traveling like through developing an ego and then seeing through it. Uh, yeah, so here we are. So first build up the self and then see through it. And this sort of was the final kind of epiphany to Tara and many others, why she would work on the one level, helping people who haven't really got an ego to try to solidify their sense of self-esteem and then to let it go sort of in the Dharma classes at the end of the day. So that was her revelation. Any questions on that? All right, so I'm going to keep going now. And now I want to get to my little question is, why is meditation so hard? So, and in this way, I want to move from the top and move back down the stairway. So we're going to kind of walk backwards now. Because with meditation, we're promised bliss and peace, but many of us sit and meditate and it's just not there. Who sort of can resonate with that? I can't see many hands, but some of you do. Um, and not only that, I want to see that this map can act as a diagnostic as to why that happens. So again, catch 22, you think to yourself, right, I'm going to sit there and be very relaxed and blissful and happy. You sit down and then no happiness arrives. And not only that, we actually uh, we actually start to get negativities often coming up. Just no good at this meditation stuff. Oh, and I've got this problem. I'm probably wasting my time here anyway. And so you can actually start feeling negative towards the meditation, which doesn't help. The other thing about meditation is meditation doesn't numb us. It doesn't cause us to go into like sleepiness. It's actually clarifying. The whole idea of meditation is it clarifies your mind. And if you can see better, you can see those patterns more clearly in your mind, they're therefore more disturbing because you can't well, what you do is you do look away and you start to distract yourself. So you either get busy, you look at a screen, or you go for some sugary foods. These are all emotional suppressants, and they're a way of taking our mind off the unpleasant things that we don't want to see. Whereas meditation is the opposite. They're sitting there with nothing to do, and we are making our mind clearer. And so we see those negative patterns, those skeletons in the closet, if you like, that we really don't want to see. And that can cause us to feel like, oh, I don't like this meditation. I'm going to go and do something else. So the discomfort is causing a problem. And what I say to people is you need to make meditation happy because if you can pull in some of that bliss or that energy or that rapture, then it's easy to sit there. Like you can sit there for an hour easily because it's pleasant, it's nice to meditate, and your meditation will kind of take off. So there's the sort of catch 22 in that you meditate for a certain reason, but when you don't get that, it causes you to feel negative, and then you sort of walk away, throwing the baby out with the bathwater, so to speak. So, in thinking of this myself, okay, and this is kind of really my idea, is the key is to work backwards. So, if you want the bliss and rapture, the reason why you're not getting that is because the love that you feel for the world is being somehow withheld, somehow. Yeah. So if you're not feeling the bliss, the question is to ask yourself, well, am I feeling a sense of love towards all people, or do I love just a few people? A few people I'm not really fussed about, and there's a few people I don't like. Or I love nature, but I don't love cities. Where is that love being withheld? Because if you can learn to love everything, then bliss will just shine through like the picture I've got here. The clouds will part and the bliss will just come automatically, and you'll be able to meditate very, very easily. So, yeah, so just look at my notes here. Yeah. So we don't need to sort of create bliss. It just comes when the love is strong enough uh, towards all beings around us. But while we have resentment, while we sort of withhold warmth, then while we kind of ignore certain people, then that is the cause for a sort of a block to come. So we say, okay, well, I would like to love people, but that's not easy either, is it? It's hard to love some people. So that takes us to the next step. So if we want to love, we need to we need to solidify the foundations. You see, you can't get to another level without solidifying and learning the lessons of the level before it. So that's why I want to take this step downwards, because you've got to say, well, if I'm not getting that, how do I get that? Well, if I'm not getting that, how do I get the following? And so you've got to find out where you are and start from where you are and then work up. So if you want love, you need to take responsibility for those negativities in your own mind. So you can't have love if you're blaming people. You have to realize that you are the cause of your own suffering. So your negative emotions are your responsibility, they're no one else's. If you say, he made me feel blah, 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 you you're not taking responsibility. You're not at this level of responsibility yet, which is fine. There's no problem in that. It's just recognizing where you're at. So, uh, if you can own your reaction, then the resentment towards others dissolves because it's no longer their fault. And even people who are not very nice to you, you can learn to love them because you realize that the reason you're feeling negative is your fault, not theirs. So hopefully that makes sense, and we'll move on. So if you are finding it hard to take that responsibility, then you can say, well, why is that? And the truth is we need to step down again to level 4 and ask yourself, um, you know, am I seeing the world as a we, or am I seeing the world as just me? Okay, we've got to understand that every person has the right to be happy in this world. And we need to know that we are an interconnected web. The big understanding of level 6 is this idea that everyone is interrelated. You know, I depend on you guys. I can't be giving this lecture without an audience. So this whole lecture is only here because there's an independent relationship between you and I. Everything, everyone, and everything is interdependent. And so there is no such thing as there's me against the world. It's like I'm part of the fabric. And not only that, it's the outside world which is there to give us the reflection of our own mind. We need that outside world to give us that understanding. So when we start to take that attitude, we can naturally graduate to the level of responsibility by understanding that we are we. So that's the shift. Now, if you can't, if you say, well, so that's bollocks, there's no we, I can't do we, that's no good. I can't share. Then you've got to, but if you want to, and often at this stage people don't want to, then you've got to go and solidify the one below that, which is a sense of mastering your own mind. And this is where science comes in, and you need to do what is important for you to feel solid as a person. You need to, as I say, you need to work out what's the best health for yourself. You need to work out, what activities you need to do to stay healthy, what foods to eat. You need to look after your finances. You need to get yourself in a position where you're feeling whole in yourself, so that you can learn to love yourself, and then you will naturally start to love others. And for this level is a very, very scientific level. Look at the research, what it tells you, and move into that sort of values level. And then when that's solid, you'll naturally start to want to be in a sharing sort of state, because it will bring you more happiness. Okay. Now, if you're stuck here, if you feel that you can't fulfill yourself and feel proud of who you are and feel like you're empowered, that you can take actions, maybe it's because you are not following the rules. You haven't got enough boundaries for yourself. It's important to put boundaries in place. So people at this level, if I want to help them develop, I'll say, look, we need to put in some boundaries. You need to know what is right for you. Don't go off and set screen time limits for yourself. Don't eat certain foods. Don't go to certain places. Don't hang out with certain people. And then if people are treading on your boundaries, you need to put up rules and boundaries for them. Like, do not do that. Like, this is the boundary. You step over this boundary and you're out. I'm not going to put up with that. You need to take on that empowerment. So this is a very dominant stage. We need to find your dominance so that you can stand up as an identity. Oh, sorry, where am I at? I've gone the wrong way. Uh, Oh, yeah. So no, that's right. They're the rules. Yeah. So we need strong rules to be able to follow. And if you can't set rules for yourself, then possibly you're struggling at the dominant stage, and you need to understand that you have power. Um, that genuine connection requires a mind and an ego that you can actually work with. So you need, I think I'm going the wrong way here. Here we are. Uh, so yes, you need to be like the lighthouse, standing strong in your environment, um, and reclaim your agency. So you're possibly still at the innocence level, and you need to go into the agency. Um, and then sometimes we need to work with people at the innocence level as well to know that they can step up. Uh, all right, so that's we're coming towards the end of the presentation. And the idea of this is if you want to be able to meditate and you want to get some sort of happiness and bliss in your meditation, then we need to find out what's blocking you. And I really think that this developmental model is a really good way and a shortcut for you to find out where you're at and know what you need to work on to move to that next level. The only other thing I will say is, although often you can pigeonhole people to be primarily at one of these levels, you'll often find there is some variance depending on the context. So they could be, for example, a very level 5 at work, or a level 2, at home, and a level 3 at work, and a level 4 in their community center. So it can be a little bit context dependent. But either way, we can find out where you're blocked in which context, and we can work to solidify that lesson. And once you solidify the positives and negatives of the lesson, you'll naturally graduate. Your values will definitely shift to the other position. So I've sent you that sheet. So if you've got that sheet, this is a time when we can just open up. And I'd be curious to know what your thoughts are both on the presentation, and if anyone's brave enough, maybe their thoughts on where they feel they're at in these kind of levels, or whether you feel that you've identified, I feel like I might be stuck at, the sharing level. Um, yeah, sometimes what we can do is we can sort of get stuck at the sharing level, but then move, for example, to the level of love. But we're being blocked because we haven't learned what we need to learn back at the sharing level, for example. Um, so yeah, it's not quite as clean cut as going one to the next. But anyway, I'll leave it there and I'll open up to the group. Does anyone have any questions, comments, or self-reflection? All right, and I've taken longer than I meant to, so sorry for that, but hopefully we can stay a bit longer than the hour.
Yeah, Peter, I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead, Pankaj.
Um, Maybe I don't know, but my in my mind, I think one can be not only on one level, but he can be on multiples of levels,
Mm-hmm.
depending on the situation and the role. For example,
Mm-hmm.
like when you're at home, um, you're on level 6 and 7,
Yeah.
and then maybe when you're out working, you're on 3, but you say that okay, once I'm at this level, I'm happy to start sharing or accepting responsibility. So I don't know whether it's like a hierarchy, or you can be on the
Yeah,
different levels
you can.
depending on the situation.
You can. Yeah, that's true. But what I would do is if you're even at level 3 at work, that's still kind of blocking you. So if I was to work with you as a coach, I would say, okay, let's work on getting you from a level 3 to a level 4 at work. And then you would find that you would more solidly move into the higher levels um, in other areas of your life. You can't fully inhabit a level if even, well, you can for short periods of the time. And we always get that it's true that we're moving up and down these levels all the time, but we can't solidly stay at level 5 or 6 or 7 if we've still got issues at level 3, even in one area of our life. So you're right. different contexts will allow you to go to sort of these different levels, but you also, for a coaching perspective, it's very useful to try to get you into, I guess, a higher level, wherever your lowest level is, to work on that, I suppose. Nigel, what's your question?
Another question. Well, first of all, thanks for a great presentation, Peter. Really
Yeah.
informing. I went through the questions, and it was like as soon as I got to the one that was mine, it was like a brick hitting me. I think I'm at number five. I won't go into the reasons because there's a lot behind that,
Yeah.
but it's been helpful for me to see that, to sort of give me clarity, if you like.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Good.
So yeah, I do secretly blame certain individuals. I won't remember name. So yeah, it's
Yeah,
been useful for me. So thanks.
yeah, yeah. So if that's it. So when if these questions kind of just go, am I good because I choose to be or because I'm afraid not to be? Oh yeah, I think I choose to be and blah blah blah. But then when something hits you, like, is there anyone I secretly blame, or can I stay open-hearted and still take charge of my life? No, I feel like I need to concentrate on myself. To do that. I'll actually just stop sharing for a little bit so you can see everyone's faces, and then I'll go back. Ray, what was your comment or question?
Yeah, I thought it was a great presentation. I was just going to say it's funny. I was initially when you're going through it, I thought that I skipped a step, but maybe that step might be holding me back. So I think I'm at a five going in towards six. But I think I skipped the four, the community one. Like unless I haven't experienced that or just got through that very quickly. But it seems like that one was sort of missing in my progression. But maybe I need to sort of work on that to get a bit further. But yeah, that was yeah. I thought I just maybe skipped that because I did was definitely up to the ambition where I was like self improvement and stuff like that, and
Hmm.
started working on myself. And then I sort of felt like I've gone to the responsibility of like being in charge of my, being responsible for my feelings and emotions and stuff like that. But yeah, that was, I really like the progression, but I'm interesting to explore more about whether I did sort of skip that step and maybe I need to work on some of the stuff in that stage, or whether, yeah, what happened
Yeah.
there.
Yeah. So this is the good thing about it is, if we're not having success in our meditation, this gives us a way to point. A lot of people skip the ambition stage. So you get these people that are into the law of attraction and they believe that they can manifest things and they love, but they really skipped the ambition or entrepreneurial stage to realize that there's something to be said about science and cause and effect and self-empowerment. And, you've got to look after yourself. It's not just airy-fairy wishing anymore, even though that's a sort of a higher level. It's got to be based on sort of the ambition. So you've obviously identified maybe there's some things you've skipped in number four. So yeah, this is where it can be really useful in coaching is to take a bit of a deeper dive and go, well, actually, maybe I've skipped number two, and I think that I'm at number six, but but if I'm having struggling, I can go back and work on number two. So yeah. Anyone else want to share where they felt that they landed? So when I'm coaching,
Hey,
I'll sometimes,
sorry,
yep,
Pete. Just
yeah,
got something just to add on, if I can.
yeah,
Right or wrongly, while I was going through the numbers, I saw some other people in there that I thought, oh, they could be at that level.
yeah, exactly, exactly. So when I'm coaching, and this is a delicate situation, you don't want to pigeonhole people sometimes, but
Mm,
you can go, yeah, they're at level such and such, they're at level three, they're at level seven, they're at level
yeah,
five, they've got this issue. I've got a very exhaustive test, which has over 150 questions, which really pinpoints people quite accurately
yeah.
in these levels. Um, yeah, the Claire Graves, the innocence level is actually has two levels. It's level 1 and 2. So the dominance level in the Claire Graves spiral dynamics is level 3. So it's a bit confusing, but anyway. All right. So I'll just share again. So I guess what I want to sort of also leave you with is sort of more action steps as well. So the last couple of slides I've got is obviously if this resonates with you, find your step. Because in order to graduate, well, what I will say is that people do get stuck at one level and they stay there their whole life. Yeah. So if you do feel like you're stuck in life, just understanding this developmental process is brilliant. But also having someone that can help guide you through that creates movement up the staircase, if you like. So if you know the lesson, you can practice the lesson that you need at that step, and with guidance, it'll push you up. And so anyway, obviously, I'm not implying that you necessarily, but this is my passion and this is what I want to do to help people. And this is my methodology of helping someone actually get to the state where they sit down and they go into a state of rapture and connection with the universe that is unparalleled and just, it will just change your whole life. And I want to help as many people do that as possible. And I do that through coaching and through teaching people to do meditation. And this, I believe, is something that I can use more. I've sort of gone away from it. Now I'm going to sort of start coming back to it to really help people. Yeah, but of course you don't need to, if you don't resonate with Skillful Mind, then just this model can help you and you can find that, you might be able to find other people that will help you in this way. It's just a really powerful way to do that. However, obviously, if you do want to, then I've given you some free things. So first of all, some of you have attended my Sunday morning sessions. They're free. You're welcome to come along anytime, free of charge. Also free, I've given you a link to my Awaken program, which is the Foundations of Awakening Practice, which tells you all the kind of building blocks you need to put in place in order to make a solid foundation to start moving up any of these levels, but particularly the higher ones. And that's a session I did like this over five weeks, but you can look at it in your own time. I've just recorded it. There's personal coaching. If you do a coaching session with me, we can sort of do one-on-one and say, look, okay, let's find out where you're stuck and work on that one level. And then if you're willing to wait until next year, there's the coaching program, which I will do for a 1-year sort of coaching program. So for those people that are new to Skillful Mind, I know some of you are in my coaching program, but others that are interested in doing this work, there are some ways to work with Skillful Mind. So that's my last slide. I'll leave that up. But Nigel, what other, you've got your hand up?
Yeah, just a comment really. I think you mentioned earlier at some point about the fact that we're like integrated, no man stands alone, we're integrated. And I was reading this, I've been reading this, I don't know if you can see it with this backdrop thing, this
Yeah.
book by Maharishi.
Yeah.
No, you can't see it.
Yeah.
And he was saying exactly the same, that, whatever we do affects the universe and whatever the universe does affects us. So we have to bear that in mind really on well, I do anyway, how we lead our daily life. Is that a movement of awareness for me by any chance?
Oh, absolutely. And it's in Christianity, it's in Islam, it's in the Kabbalah, it's in Buddhism, Hinduism, Jainism, Taoism. So there's been saints all over the world that have seen the truth. But I think, see, what I guess I'm learning is you can't just go and say, here, sit down, meditate, and you'll fall into a great state of bliss. You can't take someone that's at the sort of a lower level and go, here, just go straight to enlightenment. I suppose it actually very, very rarely does happen. But for the great majority of people, you need to work up. And if you're not one of those lucky few who the lightning bolt hits and you're suddenly happy all the time, which is maybe 1 in a trillion people or billion maybe, you've got to sort of work up, and this is a more progressive way and a more solid way to do it. So yeah, so your book about Maharishi is great and it says all of this stuff, but there's no point in loving everybody if you just can't do it. If you're still stuck at level 4, you need to work at that level. You can't, you can't just, it's a nice idea, but it just doesn't work for certain people. Alrighty. Well, thanks for a lovely evening. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope, I hope that you got something out of it. If you didn't, that's fine too. But yeah, I thank you for coming along and taking time out to share my passion. Thanks, Nigel. On how to grow one's mind into a state of happiness. And whichever way your journey takes you, I wish you all the best. But if you decide to come back to Skillful Mind on a Sunday morning or at any other time, then we would love to have you again. So feel free to reach out, and I'm more than happy to chat with anyone if anyone wants guidance. But I'll wish you a good evening and hope to see you again in the future. And
Thanks, Peter. It was a great presentation.
No
Right.
worries.
Thanks, Peter. Very good.
Yeah.
Thanks, Peter.
Okay, cheers.
Bye. Good night. Have a lovely evening. Thank you very much.
Thank you very
Peter.
much. Bye.
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 Bye, Peter. Thank you.
Yep. See ya.
Thank you.
Hope to see you Sunday.
Yeah, absolutely.